The beginning of our story takes place in World War II. It's Nagasaki, bombs about to drop. He was a prisoner of war at the time in a Japanese camp.
So that's a whole nother set of research. Pictures of Hiroshima during and pre in the POW camps, and just getting it to feel real.
And that is so incredibly well documented that we just had to go to history to do that properly. And then the rest of the film is set in present day.
We start in the Yukon, which gives us North American kind of grit that we're more familiar with, and then moving into the Japanese culture.
15 hours, depending on the wind.
The Japanese culture seeps into you, and you start to not only understand it, but appreciate it for what it is. And it is extraordinary. It's an unbelievable culture, and it is inspiring. So the effect that it had on me as an actor hopefully will translate through to the character.
We were able to shoot in some of the more vibrant elements of the city and capture that. This Tibetan temple in the center of the city, you kind of can't believe it's in the center of all that is Tokyo. It's so vibrant and dynamic, and yet there in the center of the city is this ancient Buddhist temple. And they were kind enough to let us shoot there and give us the time to do that work properly, as well as a big chunk of the movie that we shot down in the south of Japan, which is in a much more rural sort of fishing village. And that's so much of what we wanted to reflect. We had great partners there. We're very lucky.
It was really difficult to shoot in Japan and get all of the permits that you would need to do a compelling action sequence. But the Japanese crew kept encouraging us that it's okay, you have to sort of go for it. We had this sort of chunk in our schedule where the producers and Jim were like, take advantage of the locations we do have and trust the Japanese crew. It was old school. I mean, we waited for trains to fly through the background. We ran this sort of guerrilla second unit that helped us capture Japan, which few movies get to do.
We're, with our characters moving in and out of all the dynamism that is Tokyo subway or Tokyo streets or nights.
We had a couple situations where you're running stunt guys through like a real crowd. And I mean, guys are falling down and people would stop and look and just keep carrying on.
We honestly couldn't create those sets. We couldn't imagine them. So really important for us to have figured out how to do that and make that a part of the film.
Seeing the scope of the city as a backdrop lends huge credibility to the movie and the world. That just helps us with any of the action sequences we're doing.
This movie, more than I think anything I've worked on, has a lot of sort of cutting between locations in Japan and locations in Sydney and then sets in Sydney. And it's really interesting because when you see the scenes cut together, it actually makes the world appear much more immersive and much bigger and much more multi-layered. We did several weeks of photography in Tokyo, and we did the rest in Sydney here at the Fox Studios, where we took advantage of these world-class stages that are absolutely phenomenal. Right off the bat, we went right into quite a big set, which was the Yoshida compound. And this was everybody on the crew's favorite set because it really felt like we were stepping into another world. It was the world of incredible opulence and sophistication. You could just walk through these doors and all the rooms and hallways opened out into a central courtyard with water and trees, very zen and bonsai trees and rocks. And we even had plastic koi fish in the water just for that extra touch. And the crew loved it because everywhere they looked, it was like they were immediately in the world. And it was just kind of your fantasy to be able to create a space that was so unique.
The set looks just incredible. It is full of layers and history and tradition. It has a very unique feeling.
And then
it's Mitsubishi, it's big.
We decided that the Yoshida Corporation was predominantly a medical electronics company, and you see that in Yoshida's suite in his house. He has a lot of Yoshida medical products that are keeping him alive.
Kuzuri, you look the same. But then that is no surprise.
One of the biggest challenges on the movie is we had to create this pin bed that Yoshida is lying on, which was an incredibly sophisticated piece of equipment. It was made up of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of individual pins that are each automated. And the idea is that this pin bed can sense you and almost read your mind, and then it manipulates like a pincushion to raise you up into different positions. So it's a really interesting choice because the first time that we see Yoshida, it's against the backdrop of this sort of unsettling technology that he's lying on that's very, very kind of unusual and draws you in a little bit into this strange world that we're about to enter. We had some great big builds that we built on location here, like the Ice Village, which was designed based on actual villages in the mountains of Japan. We went to visit several villages and actually got blueprints from these Edo period houses that we based our architecture from. So it's very, very, very accurate architecture to these Japanese villages in the mountain.
Originally it was going to be shot on stage, but the set and the appetite for the stunt work grew and grew and grew, and we basically ran out of space on stage. So it went out to the outside. It wasn't easy recreating a mountainous snow village exterior at night, but it looked pretty good.
What's amazing about this movie is it's a standalone film. So we could really have kind of carte blanche to do whatever we wanted because it had to be just true to the character and true to the story, which stood alone as its own thing. So it's kind of like Logan's personal journey. So we had a lot of freedom, much more freedom than I ever anticipated, to just make it really, really cool.